And welcome everyone. As in case you just came on, this is just to remind you, we are doing Optics 101, how to choose and use binoculars, and we'll be talking about scopes more with Ben at the end if he does show up. I wonder if he got the time wrong. Those of you who don't know us, Roseann and Jonathan Hansen, we are founders and former owners of the Overland Expo. A lot of you know us from that. And my Field Arts Institute. I am a naturalist and I teach nature journaling, and I'm the program coordinator at the Desert Laboratory on Tumamoc Hill for art and science programs. And Jonathan is, well, tell us a little bit about your background and yourself.
Background, freelance writing. I was the founding editor of Overland Journal magazine, which some of you might know. I've written for a score of other magazines, and we've done quite a few books together. I've been using optics for, as Roseann said, a long time professionally. So always love them and love getting into technical details.
Boy, does he. So optics, binoculars, scopes are an indispensable tool for exploration, observation, and conservation. You use these tools for many hours a day if you are a naturalist, an artist, a game scout, a hunter. So getting a really good quality pair or scope is really essential to success in what you want to achieve. So we're going to start out, for those of you who are really just new to this, and it's a good reminder for those of us who aren't, optics anatomy. So when we're talking about them, eye cups, literally the pieces that are go closest to your eye. And then that lens right there at your eye is referred to as the ocular lens. At the other end of the binoculars or scope is the objective lens. We'll be talking about these. And then the focusing wheel is generally right up near the nose or halfway down. And then on higher quality optics, the diopter, which we'll be talking about, is generally with the focus wheel, but on other binoculars, it can be on one of the right eye cup. So we'll talk about that.
And the diopter is designed to compensate for the difference in vision between
we'll be
your two
talking
eyes.
about. We've got a detailed slide of that.
So binoculars have within the body of them prisms that do two things. They accomplish two things. They erect the image, because normally when an image comes through a lens, it's reversed. So the prism reverses that to make an upright and correct way image for your eye. And also it has the important function, possibly even more, of shortening the instrument. As you can see here, when the light comes in, it sort of bounces around through the prism before it goes to the eyepiece. There are two general types of binoculars that you see here. There's Porro prism and a roof prism. Porro prism binoculars, generally, as you can see the illustration in the upper left, have objective lenses that are set outward from the eyepieces. So they're bulkier than roof prism binoculars. However, they're also a little simpler. When you look through the red light rays there on each side, you can see that the Porro prism binocular just bounces it around just a few times, whereas in the roof prisms, it gets bounced around quite a bit more. And we'll talk about what the import of that a little bit later on. The important thing about roof prisms is they're quite a bit more compact, as you can see, just two very slim tubes, and that makes a nice difference in handling, generally much easier. So most high-end binoculars these days are roof prism binoculars, as you see on the right.
Oops.
So looking at roof prisms, there are two essential kinds. There's the Habichts on the left and the Schmidt-Pecken on the right. And as you can see, again, the Habichts is a little bit simpler. The light has to bounce around a little bit less. In the Schmidt-Pecken, it has to bounce around a little bit more, but it's quite a bit more compact. The thing to keep in mind is that every time light passes through a glass surface or bounces off a reflective surface, you lose a tiny little bit of contrast and light transmission. We'll talk about it more, but bunch of things to keep in mind. Most high-end roof prism binoculars these days use the Schmidt-Pecken on the right because it's so much more compact. Both can be made high quality though.
And what about,
So
you'll see that phrase.
You'll see these phrases in terms of what the prism is made of, the type of glass, and BAK4, BAK7 or 2, and that's a short for barium crown glass. High quality binoculars, we use one or the other, generally BAK4, which is even higher quality. However, that's doesn't tell you everything, because there are very cheap Chinese made binoculars that will advertise they use BAK4 glass. It used to be an indicator of quality. These days you can't be too sure. You have to go more by the brand.
So now we're going to go through kind of what we call an optics checklist. These are the overarching things to look for. Then after this, we'll go into more detail of the actual parameters that you use to shop for the binoculars or scope. So the checklist is going to be, so first and foremost.
Yeah, obviously the quality of the glass. You can take the same piece of glass and manufacture it and finish it poorly, or you can finish it very well. So the quality of the lenses, the quality of the glass, and even more importantly, how it's finished determines the quality of the binocular and the image you see through it. Lens coatings are very important. As I mentioned before, every time light goes through a piece of glass, a little bit of it reflects backward. You can see this by just looking at a piece of window glass. So imagine you've got a binocular or a scope that has 6, 7, 8 lenses in it, and every time the light goes through there, it bounces off a little bit. Well, in the 19th century, someone found out that actually putting a certain type of coating on the surface of glass makes the light transmit better. It seems counterintuitive, but it's not. So the lens coatings are extremely important for getting maximum light transmission through the instrument, and we'll talk about multi-lens coatings in a bit as well.
Okay, and these are chemical coatings.
These are chemical coatings, very, very fine. You can see how it looks like it actually colors the glass when you look through the objective lens of a binocular. So here's an example of that light transmission. There's a beam of light going through a glass. It bounces a little bit at the surface, and then, believe it or not, when it exits the other side of that piece of glass, it also reflects a little bit. So the coating on modern high quality optics is put on both sides of that glass. So you'll see binoculars advertised as fully multi-coated. And what that means is that the lenses, every lens inside that instrument is coated on both sides to increase the light transmission.
So the resolution is another really important feature on the checklist to check for when you are looking at optics. So it's literally the resolving power of the lenses to create a really sharp image. And it's really obvious when you have a really inexpensive pair of binoculars compared to like the one on the right versus the one on the left. There really is a big difference, and that will deeply affect your eye strain and eye fatigue. And as you get older too, I mean, the more important it is. And we found out recently that sharpness is really important. And then those coatings that we talked about too, and the quality optics will, the enhanced contrast is really important. So you can get the detail. For those of you who are bird watchers and identifying species or butterflies, needing to see details, that's really, really important. For artists as well, using a scope or binoculars to study an animal that you're sketching, and for hunters too.
Absolutely. So Another thing that happens when light passes through a lens, as you've seen if you've looked at a rainbow or at a prism, is it tends to separate light into its various chromatic bits. And a cheap piece of glass, an ordinary lens, when that light passes through it, the light will wind up being split, as you can see on the left here, and separated by a fair amount of distance, and we'll see what that does in the next slide. Whereas with extra low dispersion glass, which is a feature of high quality optics, there's much less of that. It's what's called secondary spectrum. And if you look at the next slide, you see that, look at the one on the right. That's what happens when you've got an inexpensive lens that doesn't bring all those colors of the spectrum together adequately. Whereas the one on the left, which with the extra low dispersion glass, makes a nice crisp image and no what we call color fringing.
Okay, and just to go back to this, you can see on the ordinary lens, just looking at that again, you can see how the spectrum continues to spread out, that secondary, that's what causes that fringing or flaring. And it really does make a big difference. So that you can definitely see that in less expensive optics versus the higher quality. And then this is really cool. Jonathan's going to explain
Yeah,
that.
so by incorporating one or two aspheric lenses, you make the image crisper and sharper across the entire field of view. And an aspheric lens is literally what it sounds like. Most lenses are spherical. That is, they're a section of an actual sphere if you looked at them closely. An aspheric lens is not quite a section of a sphere. It's made so that it bends the light a little bit differently. And what that will do in a binocular is make it so when you're looking through it, everything in the center is nice and sharp. But if you look off to the side, everything off to the side will still be nice and sharp as well. And that's a big difference in inexpensive binoculars versus expensive binoculars. A lot of times you'll see a nice crisp image in the middle, but if you look just off to the side, it gets blurry real quickly. So
yeah, and that I noticed that when my parents years ago bought a couple of, they were good binoculars, but they weren't super high end. I think they were Swifts. And I borrowed them, and I could really tell they were really fine in the middle, but toward the edges, it got super unresolved, kind of fuzzy for sure. And again, that's going to affect your viewing, your what you want to get out of your optics. If you're hunting, that's not good. You're not going to be able to see your entire field of view. For artists and bird watchers, nature watchers, the same thing. It's going to be a distorted image, basically. And then finally, the overall build quality. So a reputable brand, a great name, obviously Swarovski, Leica, Nikon, all have really great reputations for build quality. You really want to look for that.
So you can find a cheap pair of binoculars that will have all those trigger descriptions in it. It'll say, oh, it's BAK4 glass and fully multi-coated, and it'll sound like really high quality stuff, but that's misleading because of the build quality that's involved. It's like my analogy would be a vehicle with four-wheel disc brakes. Well, that sounds like high performance, but that doesn't tell you the diameter of the discs or the width or whether the calipers are full floating or not. There are all kinds of other things that go into quality besides just, oh, it's BAK4 glass and fully multi-coated. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference between a high quality instrument and a low quality instrument. Internal baffling, the finishing, the sealing, 1,000 different parameters.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this, I think, a little bit later, but what goes with this is also customer service.
Of course. Because
we're using our instruments in the field and we use ours hard, and you accidentally drop them, onto concrete, or bounce down a rock or two, or you lean over and it smacks and scratches something. No, we've all done that. Getting good customer service is key, because this is a good investment. Okay, So now we're going to talk about the features that you'll see when you're trying to decide, okay, I'm looking at this brand X, and there is this huge array of things to choose from, and we'll go through each one. So we're going to talk about magnification or power. We're going to talk about the objective lens size, the exit pupil, the field of view, eye relief, close focus, and water and fog proofing. So first, let's talk about magnification.
So on the left, of course, is 0 magnification. Then you see an image with an 8 power instrument, and then one with 12 power. And on the surface of it, you might think, well, cool, I want that 12 power one, but it's not that simple. A 12 power instrument, the more power you get, the more likely the image is to shake, the harder it is to hold it steady, and the less light comes through. As you go up in magnification, the light gathering power goes down. It's a linear relationship. So you need to strike a balance between magnification and steadiness and light gathering power.
Okay, and we're going to look at those more closely now. So literally, when you see binoculars, especially, it's going to say something like 10 by 42 or 8 by 32 or 8 by 25. What do those mean? So the 10, the first number, is the magnification, the power, so 10 times. And the other number is in millimeters. That is literally the diameter of the objective lens, that far outside lens. And that is how bright it is. So how big and how bright is your first order of business. But then let's compare a couple.
Yeah, so here are 2 binoculars, both of them 10 power, a 10 by 25 on the left and a 10 by 42 on the right. So those bigger objective lenses are going to gather a lot more light. The 10 by 25 might be fine in broad daylight, but as soon as the sun starts going down, or if you're trying to see a bird in dusk, that larger 42 millimeter objective lens will make a huge difference because it has so much more surface area to gather light. So again, it's a trade-off.
And let's add another.
Now, the exit pupil is extremely important. And exit pupil is a function of the power, the 10 and the objective lens. And it's the same in all instruments.
So either spotting scopes or
any binoculars, cheap binoculars, expensive binoculars, it's the same thing. See the 10 by 25, you divide that 25 by 10, and that's the diameter of the exit pupil.
It's a literal measurement. You can actually see it in the photo on the left. You're looking at the exit pupil, the dots, the white dots, the light dots in the ocular lens.
Yeah. So the 10 by 42, same magnification, has a 4.2 millimeter exit pupil. So almost twice as big. Again, you just divide the 42 by 10. Doesn't matter what binoculars you're looking at. The importance of that is, I think, in the
next slide.
So here's the issue. The human pupil in daylight is generally about 2.5 millimeters in diameter. So when you're looking through the 10 by 25 instrument there, that little tiny exit pupil is fine. Everything will look okay. But in dusk, your pupil is going to enlarge, depending on your age, to between 5 and 7 millimeters. And if you try looking through that same 2.5 millimeter exit pupil with your own pupil that's now 5 or 7 millimeters in diameter, you get huge vignetting. You don't see very
What's
bright
vignetting?
image. Vignetting is where it looks dark around the edges. You just see this tiny little image in the middle, and then everything else is dark around the side.
Because of the differential in the...
Because your pupil is bigger than the exit pupil. Whereas on the right, you get a larger exit pupil it matches or is close to what your own pupil is doing. So you get the benefit of all the lights that's being drawn through that instrument, and the instrument matches your own view. So
it's kind of counterintuitive. You'd think that if your eye is dilated like that, that it would be fine either way, but it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't work that way. So the larger exit pupil is really important.
Okay. So then the next feature, I think, is pretty important and gets overlooked a little bit, but it's important to understand what it is. So field of view is literally the field, what you are looking at through what you were delivered through the binoculars to your eye and brain. It's a measurement. So at 1,000 yards, that's the measurement. It's going to be expressed in feet. So however many feet, we're going to look at some examples. Sometimes they'll also use angles. So a degree, so it'll say something like 5.6 degrees. And if you look on the illustration down there, it's literally the arc, measuring the arc of what you're seeing in that cone going out. So it's kind of correlated to the magnification. It's definitely not the objective lens size, but can you explain the correlation a little bit?
Yeah, it's somewhat correlated to magnification, but binoculars manufacturers can tweak the interior so that some 10 by 42 binoculars will have a wider field of view than others. It depends on how the interior is designed.
Okay, let's compare some. So we're going to throw up some different magnification, different powers here, and look at the different field of views. So this first one is an 8.5 by 42. So we're going to compare, these first two are both 42 millimeter objective lenses. So this one at 8.5 by 42 has a 399 foot field of view at 1,000 yards, or 7.6 degrees. You can see that expressed on the left. And let's compare that to, let's go up in magnification to 10. So at 10, the field of view goes down. You're seeing a closer image, but less of the landscape or the bird or whatever, and 6.4 degrees. So the difference was 399 versus 336 feet. Do you want to talk about light transmission at all at this point? It's often
again, as magnification goes up, you're going to lose a little bit of light transmission, but on the other hand, you're gaining magnification.
Okay.
So that the 8x, the 8.5x will have a larger exit pupil, so it'll be better at dusk than the 10x will.
Yes.
Going back to the
yeah, we'll look at exit pupil too in a minute, comparing, and just to show too. Why we're going to explain a little bit why we are usually fans of, and Jonathan's going to really go on more about this. We're usually fans of lower magnification, so 8, and look at this 8 by 32 comparison. And this comes down to your own, what you're using them for and what you like to do. I like the slightly larger field of view that an 8 by 32 gives me. 423 feet versus the 336, I think 399, excuse me, for the other 8, the 8 by 42. And I like that because I can see more as birds are moving around. They don't exit my my view as quickly, and I just get more information. That's my preference. So that just is a way to express that. So let's talk about eye relief and what that is.
So as this says, eye relief is the distance away from the ocular lenses that your eye is to be able to see the full field of view that the binoculars offer. And different models have different eye relief specifications, generally referred to in millimeters. It's extremely important if you wear glasses.
Yes.
You need more eye relief if you wear glasses, because your eye is by it's forced to be farther away from that ocular lens because of your glasses. So we recommend a minimum of 15 millimeters of eye relief if you wear glasses, and the more the better. 20 millimeters is better than 15. Less than that, you might not be able to get the full field of view if you're looking.
And then you're going to get the vignetting.
And you're going to get the vignetting, exactly. So binoculars have eye cups that retract. And when you're using with glasses, you retract those eye cups all the way, and then even with your glasses on, you'll see more of the field of view. So here's an example. Those, again, the 8x32s have a excellent eye relief for 20 millimeters. So these would be really good for eyeglass wearers.
Okay, this is my favorite feature. I get kind of obsessed about close focus because I love to look at butterflies and insects or lizards, because my optics I use a lot for sketching in the field, for observing and sketching. So I'll hold my binoculars up, study something, and sketch. And the closer the better, because I can really bring that butterfly or even plants that are maybe behind a rock over there. I can pull it closer without having to climb on top of the rock. So I really do enjoy that closer focus. So 12 feet is too far for me, but there are some that go as close as 6 feet, which is my favorite. But
yeah, and again, higher quality binoculars tend to have a close focus.
So 12,
again, you're
12 feet or closer.
getting more for the money.
But you do need to check the specifications, because across a brand, so a high quality brand like Leica or Swarovski, double check, because they do vary widely across the offerings, whether they have a closer focus or not. So that's something you definitely want to check. I think on the Swarovski line, the ELs have less, like, farther away focus than the pures.
That's right. So again, the important feature, especially if you're spending a lot of money, is weather resistance, water and fog proofing. And that's done two ways. The waterproofing is done with really good seals, and high quality seals mean that water can't get in even if the binoculars are submerged. But high quality seals mean that the focus still remains nice and light. You can easily waterproof a binocular, but the O-rings will be all so tight that it's really difficult to use. High quality binoculars manage to balance both. And then a better binocular is filled with an inert gas, usually nitrogen, which doesn't expand or contract too much with heat and does not fog. So that even if it's really cold outside and you're looking through them, the inside of the binoculars won't fog up, which of course would not be a good thing.
Why is it called nitrogen purged?
Because you're purging out the air,
the oxygen,
and replacing it with nitrogen.
Should be oxygen purged. I'm sorry, it's just an editor in me. I'm just like, no, yeah, that's just not right.
Yeah. So just a quick example of really high quality binoculars and what they'll do for you, especially customer service. My first pair of Swarovski 10x50s, I bought when I was leading sea kayak tours, and those binoculars rode on the deck of my kayak for 10 years in all kinds of weather. So they'd be out in the hot sun and then they'd get splashed with 50-degree water. Just miserable conditions. I was brutal on them. After 10 years, I finally noticed one side of them had developed a little fogging. So I sent them back to Swarovski with a note that said, look, this is not a warranty claim. Here's what I've done with these. I just need you to tell me what it's going to cost to fix them. Well, I got them back in a month, good as new, no charge. So that's the difference.
Yep. And they were insanely expensive at that time.
They were very expensive.
But in the end, though, they weren't expensive because they lasted you like 20 years.
Yeah, and then I think I sold them.
You sold them for what you paid for them. Yeah. So quality does really go a long way. All right. Now, let's get into the using them, which it sounds like, oh, no, all you do is just pick them up and use them. But we notice, especially when we teach beginning bird watching, people really don't really know how to properly set up and use their binoculars. So the first thing is to make sure that, they do. You may not even know this if you mail order them instead of go into an optic shop, which right now with COVID, you're going to be mail ordering, is they bend, and we'll pick some up in a few minutes when we come back on screen to show you that. But the hinges move, and you need to get that interpupillary distance matched to the ocular lens so that you don't get vignetting and weird, if you're having trouble focusing, it might be because you actually haven't got your eyes matched to the ocular lens. So maybe talk a little bit now about some people don't even realize they have this feature, and it can be highly useful.
Yeah, so the diopter, as I mentioned earlier, is designed to compensate for difference in vision between your own eyes. And
do all people have differences?
No, all people don't.
I do.
I don't. I always leave my diopter at 0. Roseann has a slight difference. So with the diopter, you focus first with one. Well, you can see the directions here on the side, but yeah. You simply focus with one eye first.
Here, first, let's go to there.
Yep. So, left eye with the other eye closed, and focus until it's comfortable. Then you close that eye and use the other one, and then you adjust the diopter until you get a crystal clear image with that one. And then the image will be perfectly sharp for both your eyes. Most high-end binoculars have that right on the focusing wheel. Some binoculars have it on an eyepiece as well, but it will be obvious. There's a little scale with a 0 and then a 1, 2, or 3, and a 1 on one side and a 1, 2, or 3 on the other side to adjust it.
And that's really a nice feature. So definitely look for that when you get your binoculars, to make sure you've adjusted them properly for your eyes.
So this is see the keep your eyes on the prize there. That's a really key feature in using binoculars effectively. I found that beginners, when they want to look at a bird, they've got their binoculars down here on their chest. So they look at the bird, and then to use the binoculars, they look down at the binoculars and go and raise them up. What you should do is keep your eye on the bird and just lift the binoculars so that they intersect your field of view. And it takes a little practice, but with a bit of practice, you can get so that you can keep your eye on the bird, raise the binoculars, and suddenly that bird will still be there, except sometimes bigger or whatever it is you're looking at. That's one of the keys to viewing moving objects and animals with binoculars. Another good way, of course, if you're just glassing for something, is to brace them on a tripod or something. And a lot of times hunters will do this. They'll sit on a hillside and glass the opposite side to watch for movement of a deer or something. And that involves just literally sitting with the binoculars still and gazing through them for sometimes 15 minutes at a time to see if something moves.
So bracing them is a great idea. Also, when you are just using them without a tripod, maybe putting your elbows against your chest, if you're going to be holding them for quite some time, that really helps too. Or putting them,
or sitting and putting them on your knees.
It's another good.
Yeah.
Some fun tips. So this is just a fun naturalist tip. If you literally just invert them and look through the objective lens down through the ocular lens, it becomes a macro, so you can get a nice close-up. So if you're looking at an insect or detail on, if you're looking at structure of rocks for identifying a type of rock for geology, or what have you, that's really fun.
Yeah,
or a seed.
You have to get it very really close, but it works really well.
Great for looking at details on flowers if you're a complete botanist nerd and you are counting stamens and pistils and things like that, or that works really well. And then there are all sorts of great tools you can get now that attach your phone to your binocular or spotting scope. to take pictures right through your lens. You can also just hold it up, but you have to be really, really, really steady. So that works. I got a pretty good shot of the moon through that recently. That was fun. So, all right. So we're wrapping up here with kind of what our recommendations are for features to look for.
So not only about power, don't be necessarily tempted by the 10 powers, although if you try them and you find that you can hold a 10 power image steady, that's great. For a versatile all-around power, we both like 8s. I carry 10 power binoculars. Roseann has carried 10 power binoculars. Right now she has a pair of 8s.
I've recently
likes them.
Really gone back to 8s.
Obviously,
we'll
8 power binoculars are considerably lighter and less expensive. The 32 millimeter objective lens. We'll talk about size in a bit.
Okay. So testing ease of use and intuitive ergonomics. What does that mean? So literally when you're holding them up, and if you're mail ordering, make sure you mail order from a company that will let you try a couple and send one back, I think. So it's literally, is the focus in a spot that's easy to get to intuitively? You're not like groping and wobbling around because you can't find the focus. So literally ergonomics. Are you finding things where they should be? And is the focus wheel smooth? Mm-hmm. Does it focus crisply, snapping in, that type of thing?
So precision in optics is the ultimate test, and the best way I've found to determine if the optics are really, really high quality is to look through those binoculars for as long as you possibly can. When I'm reviewing binoculars, I'll sit somewhere and look through those binoculars for a good solid 10 minutes, and then move them away from my eyes and see how my vision is. If the binoculars are high quality, you won't feel suddenly cross-eyed or dizzy or like you have to refocus. Cheap binoculars sometimes they'll look okay when you look through them, but then when you look away, even after just for a few seconds, you sort of have to concentrate on readjusting your vision.
It's because your own eye is compensating for
bad
optics.
Exactly.
And literally, so eye strain is a major issue. And again, as you get older, you want to give your eyes the most help that you can.
So if you're testing them, the longer you can look through them and then look away, the better idea you'll get of how the internal optics are.
Yeah. And we talked about this a little earlier. Jonathan did durability and customer service. A good company will have great customer service. There's a zillion forums online you can go to find out, who's got good customer service. But we can tell you, Swarovski has amazing customer service, which we've used twice.
Leica does.
Leica, Nikon, Zeiss, all excellent service. So, and this is the kind of cry once and then you'll be happy that you got it in as high quality as you can literally afford. These are important tools for naturalists, hunters, outdoors people. They're really, really important to us. So we recommend that. And we'll have some brand recommendations in just a moment.
Waterproof, yeah. Obviously. Generally speaking, roof prisms, that's not a hard and fast rule.
But why? Because they're more compact.
They're more compact. Most high quality binoculars are made with roof prisms because they're more compact. However, Porro prism binoculars, the bigger ones that we saw in the beginning, are simpler to make. And remember that the light through them it has a more direct path. So all else being equal, a $300 Porro prism binocular can be higher quality than a $300 roof prism binocular. So if you don't have a lot of money to spend and you're not so much worried about size and weight, don't discount Porro prism binocular.
Good point. So for nature watching, I think the a good balance between the field of view, so an 8x32 and a close focus for general nature watching is awesome, because then you can do from butterflies and reptiles, lizards and stuff like that, all the way up to birds is a great range, is what we recommend there. For hunting,
hunting larger exit pupil is important because you want as much light gathering power as possible, because you'll probably be looking through them right at dusk and sunrise. And the wider field of view is good too for being able to look around inside it when you've got them mounted on a tripod to see what's around in there.
All right, so we went ahead and gave our top picks. So binoculars we either have owned, or instruments that we have owned in the past. So for me, I've recently switched to the Swarovski EL 8x32s from the 10x, and I'm so much more happy. They have amazing optics. I just can't even tell you how good the glass is in these, and I can say that after years of using several different ones. They're very lightweight, only 21 ounces, with a 6-foot close focus, which I adore, and a nice 423-foot field of view. And they're $2,200. Jonathan.
Yes, so Swarovski has a new line out called NL Pure, which is better than anything I've seen so far. Very comfortable, super optics and ergonomics.
They kind of, we're going to let Ben talk about this, because I did finally get Ben, and he did get the time wrong. So Ben listed with.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
So we'll have Ben when we go to the Q&A. We'll have Ben talk about the Pures, because it's a game changer in terms of they completely have rethought optics, and I want to have him talk about that. But yeah, so we'll talk about that. But Jonathan recently tested the 10x42 Pures, and it was pretty darn amazing. Yeah. Is it
another longtime favorite of mine is the Leica Ultravid 10x42s. I splurged and got the geeky Safari edition in the green with the little nice leather and canvas case, which was
total
geeky. A splurge, but still very lightweight and size for power. Extremely high quality optics. Very, very easy to use, and the ergonomics of them are absolutely perfect for me. Where the focus is. Yes,
and the reason I put the asterisk is that the Safari editions are no longer available, but they still make a 10x42. The standard. You just can't geek out like Jonathan with the fancy case. How about your
and then
your
I
scope?
have on my hunting rifle, I've had for a long time, 30 years, I think, 3 to 9x power rifle scope, variable power, superb optics, very durable. If you saw that, one of the photos we showed in the beginning showed that scope on a rifle covered with snow, and has worked perfectly.
And then the for spotting scope, here, which is right behind us. Yes, we'll come back on full view shortly. The 85 millimeter spotting scope from Swarovski, it's designated the ATX, meaning it's an angled view, and the X is the superior quality on their line, right? You had the ATS and the ATX.
Oh, I lost
count. So we'll again, we're going to have Ben talk a little bit more about spotting scopes in the Q&A, so we can talk about that. But the speed with which we can find and focus on animals, especially birds, and I really love being able to sketch and view birds through a spotting scope. It's just changed my relationship with sketching in the field. I could still do it holding my binoculars and looking down and looking up and looking down, but with the spotting-scope, it's just amazing. So for mid-price picks, we really love the Swarovski CL lines. So the 8x30s, 1400, the Nikon Monarch, Jonathan has tested and really likes it's the HG line, not the plain Monarch line. And then at the $300 to $400 range, the Opticrons are a great line.
Quite very decent.
We don't have any data on their customer service though.
No, nor the durability.
Nor the durability. So, you know, I think I would take that into account. So I think now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go find Ben, who did find us, and let me turn off the. Let me go with the speaker view. There's Ben. I'm going to make you a co-host now too, and add a spotlight, Ben. That way. There you go. Made you co-host, and hopefully everyone can see us now. So welcome, Ben, with Swarovski Optik.
Hey guys, how are you doing? You guys did a fantastic job.
Thank you. Thank you.
A quick comparison here between these are Rosann's 8x32s, 32mm objective lens, and these are my 10x42s. So it's easy to see the difference in size. These are 1 ounces. These are, I think, 28 maybe. So more power, more light gathering, but really handy one-handed size.
I can one-hand
these
and because of the lower power too, those two binoculars will actually have the same exit pupil essentially. You know, so you get something smaller with the same size exit pupil.
That's right. So 32mm divided by 8, you get a 4mm. 10x42, you get the same exit pupil.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ben's the one who kind of got me back to the 8x32s on a trip we did together. I got to borrow his 8x32s, and I was like, yeah.
So much I think about binoculars boils down to ease of use, you know, and lower power is just easier to control, whether it's hand holding things, whether it's tracking things in flight. And I find that I see more with a really easy to use binocular than I do with necessarily a high power binocular.
But on the other hand, I get along really well with 10s. So
you have a steady grip, though.
Steady grip, I think.
Yeah, and anyone can get used to navigating a narrower field of view, or most people can, but it's the ability to hold and steady. And 10 power is by and large considered to be still pretty easy to handhold.
Great. I'm looking at the chat now for any specific questions. It's really cool to see we've got people from Sweden, hi Rosemary, and Telluride and Oregon and California. So people from all over. Okay, Ben's been writing in the chat. Thank you. We can't really do the chat while we're doing a presentation, and great. So Anne says she prefers to use a monocular. Do the same suggestions apply as they do to binoculars?
So this is interesting. I'd be curious to know why Anne prefers to use a monocular, because typically most people find that if they can have both eyes open, it's going to be a lot more comfortable. But a couple challenging things about binoculars. One is they're more difficult to hold steady. There's just less surface area. You know, with a pair of binoculars, you have anchor points for both of your hands. So even, you know, I would sell binoculars to often people who would only use one eye, and I would just say, just cover up the objective lens on the eye that you don't use. One of the reasons was because they could have something they could put their hands on more, but also a challenging thing about binoculars is that the options out there are so much more limited. There's not much of a market. And so these optics manufacturers that make binoculars make them for people who aren't prioritizing, like, I just prefer to look through one eye, but they're making them for people who want something super small. And so binoculars will often be like half a pair of compact binoculars. And, you know, so the configurations, the sizes, the field of view, like all those things, there isn't the plethora of options out there in binoculars, which can make it pretty challenging too.
So Anne did reply there, Ben. It's she taught visually impaired students for 40 years, and she just got used to teaching with the monocular.
Yeah.
So that you know it's what you're used to, and if you're good at using it, then stick with it.
If you're looking for a full-size monocular, so like a 42 millimeter monocular, Opticron makes a good one, and they're one of the only manufacturers I know of that makes a full-size monocular. Otherwise, all the other monoculars that I know of are compact, which you're going to lose that low light performance.
Okay, all right. So is there a particular brand or option that would work best if I want to use it with my iPhone?
Nope. I would say that the iPhone compatibility is pretty universal in terms of how it functions with the binoculars or the spotting scopes. So no, I see there's a question on recommendations for finding used high quality. You could try eBay maybe. Sometimes various optics dealers will sell kind of rep samples or open box type things. One thing to be aware of is warranty. Not all high quality used binoculars will come with a warranty. So for instance, Leica binoculars don't have a transferable warranty. Their warranty only as it goes to the person who bought them new.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. So with Swarovski or Zeiss, we have transferable warranties. So if you buy a used pair of Swarovski binoculars that were originally sold in North America, they will come with a lifetime warranty. Warranties are different in Europe versus North America. There's laws in the European Union against lifetime warranties. It's something that they just can't offer by law over there. It's true. So a pair of Swarovski binoculars that you buy in Europe will come with a 25-year warranty, which I think is what they're limited to. But if you buy them in North America from a North American dealer, they'll have a lifetime transferable warranty. So, so where the binoculars were purchased, whether it was in Europe or in North America, might impact the warranty as well.
Look for that. I just popped something into the chat. So if people are having to leave at 11, I wanted to make sure they got that. So we're partnering with 7P Overland for this offering. So there's offering a special. Ben, can you tell us a little bit about the special that we're offering through this? I put the link in there.
Yeah, so 7P Overland is a new dealer of ours in the Overland market, trying to really share the joy of getting great views of nature and wilderness out there for the Overlanders. So they're carrying our products now, and anyone who goes over there for, I believe it's the next 2 weeks, you got free shipping, and we'll throw in a free Swarovski Optik cleaning kit for you with a pair of binoculars, and it's a pretty nice kit too. It's everything Swarovski does is pretty nice. So
yeah, it is. It's very Austrian, high quality. Ben, while we have you, one thing we'd love for you to talk about is more about the spotting scopes, and we have a good question from Penelope: is why choose an angled spotting scope versus not angled, the straight? So ours, you can see ours back there is the angled. Back behind Jonathan.
I'm gonna see if I can share my screen here with you guys. All right, so you guys are looking at the screen right here with the spotting scopes on it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is when you were talking about the spotting scopes, the ATX spotting scopes versus the ATS. One of the big differences is they're modular, meaning that you can the scope split in half between the barrel and then the ocular modules here. So it's kind of like a camera body and camera lens. So instead of having just these little eyepieces on, it's a whole backside of the scope that makes them modular. So you can get one objective lens, say this 85 millimeter one, and you can put a straight or an angled eyepiece on, and you can kind of customize them. So you can have one for each occasion if you wanted to, for whatever your occasion was. Here is the case for a straight scope might be that if you're using it in a car window mount, it'd be a bit easier to use in a car window mount. The other thing is, if some people might find it a bit more intuitive to point and get on something when they're looking through the scope and it conforms to their natural line of sight. Okay, so but By and large, I would say probably 70% of all the spotting scopes we sell are angled scopes. And here's why. There's a couple of reasons why. One, so I'm about 6'2", and whenever I'm out with people and I want to show them things, inevitably I'm going to be showing things to someone who's shorter than I am. With an angled scope, I can lower the scope down on the tripod to a height that can accommodate the shortest person in my group. And yet I can still comfortably look in it because I can just bend my head down and look in it. I don't have to squat down and try to look straight ahead. So a straight scope is really sensitive to being right at eye level. Another challenging thing with a straight scope is that if you're looking upwards, your eyepiece is facing the dirt or facing the ground. So it can get kind of challenging or uncomfortable if you want to do stargazing with that straight scope, or if you're just looking up at a mountainside or up in the hills, because once again your eyepiece is kind of going to go straight down at the dirt. Lastly, too, straight scopes typically, because they have to be at eye level, are going to require a little bit bigger, more robust tripod. They're going to stand a little bit taller, so it's a little bit more weight you'd have to carry on a tripod. Whereas an angled scope, you can get away with a little bit of a lighter weight tripod. But at the end of the day, it's a personal preference. There's going to be no difference in terms of visual quality, between those two.
Nice, thank you. That's a great description. Yeah, the height thing is really important.
And while I'm screen sharing here, you guys had mentioned those NL Pures and kind of what makes them unique. I'm just trying to convey, I guess, some of the really, it's so hard to convey this until you have them in your hands. And Jonathan, Roseann, you guys have both seen and handled these binoculars, but the ergonomics of them is something to behold. It's completely unique. It's got, I don't know if you can tell by looking at these pictures, kind of a little bit like this wasp shape, waist in there that conforms to your hands, and like the way that your finger ends up hitting the focus wheel. It's just the tactile experience of using them is kind of like it's the equivalent of what your eyes are experiencing visually. It's not only is this just a sensation for your eyes, but they fit your hands so comfortably. And this all had to do with how the prisms were ultimately rotated in the binocular itself. And I'm not going to get too technical because I'm not an optical engineer, but it's pretty outstanding. And then, of course, the other big thing about these binoculars is their field of view. The 10x42s with a field of view almost 400 feet at 1,000 yards. That's better than most 842s. So it's kind of like having your cake and eating it too. You get the usability of having a wide field of view to track moving objects and just to see more with the added power.
Also the close focus. Yeah,
the close focus is, I want to say it's around 5 feet on these. So
6.
It's 6. Let's see. Field of view, magnification, light transmission. Okay, so I'll take 6. Let's see, field of view.
Yeah, 6.6.
Sure, yeah, 6.6 feet. And realize too, with close focus, it's going to vary between users. So I might give that pair of binoculars to Jonathan. He might be like, I can get a 4-foot close focus out of this, and he gives it the same pair to me. And for me, just because my eyes are a little bit different, the close focus might be 4.5 to 5 feet. So, close focus, as you stated, is usually pretty conservative, but a lot of people will find that they can get down to maybe around 5 feet or so. Some of those.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's a little bit variable.
Great. Okay, let's see. Put us back on. Oops, I bumped Ben off. Zoom doesn't have a really smooth way to do the pinning so that we're both on the screen. So hopefully that's doing. So any more questions? I wear glasses. Rosa is asking from Phoenix, is eye relief the only thing to consider?
Yeah, I would say eye relief. I mean, eye relief is the, so fortunately these days, almost all manufacturers are making binoculars with really good eye relief. If you're spending money to get a higher quality pair of binoculars and it's a full size pair of binoculars or mid-size, it'll probably have great eye relief. We look at 15 millimeters as being that minimum. But yeah, in terms of eyeglass wearers, just look for a minimum of 15 millimeters of eye relief. And you want to be sure that the binoculars you get have those mechanical eye cups that twist up and down, not the soft rubber eye cups. And once again, it's kind of a moot point for me to even bring that up, because I don't really think any binocular manufacturers are making those soft, pliable rubber eye cups on their binoculars anymore. Almost all of them have this, retractable eye cup right here. That's, rubber, for this firm rubber eye cup, but designed to, twist it down for eyeglasses, without eyeglasses. there you go. But being an eyeglass wearer these days isn't really going to limit your binocular choice. It's not like the one lady who's looking for a monocular. I'd say like, oh boy, finding a good high quality binocular is really hard. If you're an eyeglass wearer looking for good binoculars for eyeglass wearing, there's loads of them out there.
Great. Any other questions for Ben while we've got him? I'm looking at the chat. And more, do you have that? You want to cover anything, Jonathan?
No, I think I've done what I want to cover. Yeah.
Yeah, so let me repin us. I'm bouncing back and forth here. So
We're obviously always available for
yes,
questions afterwards.
That's what I was going to mention is anytime any of you have questions about optics, just email me or Jonathan. You can get Jonathan through the website. Those of you who get our emails know how to do that. Here's another good question that just popped up. Stargazing. We use our binoculars and our spotting scope a lot for stargazing. So let's talk about that.
I would say one thing to note about stargazing with spotting scopes or with sport optics in general is that the quality of them is pretty important for stargazing, because you're looking at these tiny points of light in a black field, and you can get some pretty crazy kind of flaring if you're using a lower quality instrument, and it can be really difficult to discern some of like the finer details. But you know, an angled scope was what I would recommend, and kind of, you know, the higher quality, the more the resolution you're going to see, whether it's the, you know, the Saturn's rings, the, you know, banding on you know, Jupiter, any of that type of stuff, Jupiter's moons. It's going to be just an issue of quality, but there's no reason why you couldn't use a spotting scope for stargazing. In fact, one of the things I love about the spotting scopes versus a telescope is that spotting scopes you can use terrestrially or for astronomy. Whereas if you are looking in an astronomical telescope at a deer, the deer is going to be backwards, left to right, and upside down. So, you know, so you're really going to have these limitations if you're using astronomical equipment, whereas a sport optics, a spotting scope can you know, do both. And also compared to an astronomical telescope, to infinitely more durable and waterproof and mechanically more simple and robust, really more designed for field use. But you know, with a scope too for stargazing, you want to think about objective lens size, 85 millimeter, 95 millimeter, maybe like 115 millimeter spotting scope, which is just gorgeous for looking at anything that's going to be low light, super long distances.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, let's see. I keep going back and forth between our spotlights so we can hopefully this is people are being able to see us both. Zoom's kind of weird about that. I can't really tell. So someone asked about recording. Yes, we are recording, and I'll have it up on the website by tomorrow at exploringoverland.com. Look under the Overland Tech videos page, and I'll probably put it on the field arts tutorials as well, so you'll be able to find that. And we'll send out an email to everybody reminding you and giving you the link to the recording, because there's a lot of good information in there that you might want to go back and review when you're looking at purchasing. So, and again, please feel free. Jonathan loves to give advice about optics and things. You know, if you want to say, send him a couple of links and say, what do you think between these two, or what have you? He's always super happy to consult.
You might be sorry.
You might find out more than you ever wanted to know. So again, so the if you didn't catch it, the link to 7P, which are offering the special, our friends Graham Jackson and Nick Taylor with 7P, who we partnered with for 10 years at Overland Expo to run that. They're the ones who are offering that. They do a lot of overland training, and we've collaborated on some trips and things with them, and we'll do so more in the future when COVID lifts. So thank you everyone for coming, and good, you're welcome. Oh, another good question. I'm just going to keep answering. You know, if people want to leave, they can always check the recording. But there is a good one. We should have covered this. The optically stabilized binoculars by Canon.
Okay.
So the image stabilization.
Yeah.
So let's talk.
So those are really well done binoculars. And so with the image stabilized binoculars, there's almost kind of two different classes of them. There you have these like gyroscopically stabilized binoculars, which are really good for nautical use. They have this, they sort of accommodate sort of like the pitch and roll that you'd expect in waves and whatnot. Fujinon makes them. I really wouldn't recommend them as a terrestrial kind of everyday use image stabilized binocular. The electronically stabilized, the way that the Canons work, are great for terrestrial use, more of a general nature type use, and they work really well. Downsides of them are, one, you have a binocular that is going to have electronics in it. So all of a sudden you're going to go from something purely mechanical with a lifetime warranty, something that's going to have electronical elements to it where you're going to get maybe a 3-year warranty. Another thing is you're going to end up having some additional weight and some bulk in the binoculars as you accommodate the technology that you wouldn't otherwise normally have to carry around. Another thing is, all the money that you're putting in the technology isn't necessarily going into the lens system. So at their given price, you can get something with nicer optics, but without that technology. Having said that, if you have an essential tremor, if you have a hard time holding something steady, or if you want to be able to handhold 15 power binoculars, they work as advertised. They are really highly functional binoculars. So with anything with optics, there's trade-offs, but the Canon ones, there's nothing gimmicky about it. They execute it really well. I think it's the same technology they use with their camera lenses. So
nice. And
my first experience with those Canons was when we were leading a bird tour out in Brown Canyon, and there was a gentleman there who showed up with a pair who had Parkinson's disease.
Yep.
He hadn't been able to bird for 10 years.
It changed his life. Yeah.
Yep. So. Exactly. I wish that they don't really make them in a full size 8 power model, so you're limited in the size configurations that you have available for them. Their 10 by 30s are the most popular ones. When I was working at Eagle Optics, we sold a lot of those, and that was like the right size for people to carry around. It kind of was close enough to a regular birding binocular that it seemed to fit the bill for people, but they work well.
Nice. Thank you very much, Dale, for bringing that up. I meant to bring that up. Folks are chiming in and signing off, saying excellent program. You made a complicated topic understandable. Yeah.
It's what's so interesting about binoculars, and that's a really good point. It's the concepts aren't necessarily inherently difficult. It's not like higher level math or geometry or physics or anything like that, but they are concepts that we don't normally think about. Yeah. They're foreign to us. So talking about explaining it in a way that's low tech, it's always fun when that kind of comes across and people sort of understand some of these things and it just kind of clicks for them,
Yeah.
Getting on to just real quick, one thing that I would always talk about in when I would do these optics talks, and it kind of gets to the image stabilized binoculars, made me think about this. For a while there, and to some extent, maybe you can still find them these days. These binoculars that have these built-in digital cameras. I kind of call this like the gimmick section of the talk, where it's like these binoculars that you can take pictures with. And who doesn't love the idea, right? Everyone loves the idea of I want to take pictures through my binoculars, but in terms of how it's been implemented thus far, I would avoid those types of binoculars because it's essentially a pretty low quality digital camera sensor glued between 2 barrels of the binoculars. And your camera might be focusing on something 10 feet out and the binoculars are focusing on something 20 feet out. Don't go there with binoculars with built-in cameras. Another thing that I would be weary of is focus-free binoculars, particularly for wildlife viewing, because focus-free binoculars, they'll almost always be Porro prisms, and they will have a horrible close focus. Their close focus might be 30 or 40 feet. But what they could be good for is things like stargazing, where you're looking at things that are constantly at a distance, or people use focus-free binoculars for sporting events where the action's going left to right, you don't have to focus and it's going to be at a great distance to you. But for nature observation, where you're looking at things near and far, avoid focus-free binoculars too.
Okay. Hey, and another good question about the close focus. Is there a trade-off or downside to getting the close focus on a high quality?
No, the close focus is, there's no compromise that you make in terms of close focus, in terms of magnification or field of view, et cetera. Porro prism binoculars won't have a good close focus because the barrels are spaced further apart. The point at which the left and right barrels can converge is just going to be further out in front of you. So the downside of Porro prisms is that you can't get a good close focus out of them. One of the benefits of the Porro prisms, though, is that because the barrels are spaced further apart, they generally have a wider field of view. So once again, getting into trade-offs. I see a question, does Swarovski sell refurb or only new? Refurb sometimes allows you to get a better product at slightly less cost. We don't sell refurb pieces directly. So we will sell, I wouldn't call them refurb pieces. We will sell, yeah, I suppose you'd say refurb pieces, samples, rep samples, sometimes through our dealers. So, you know, we will have models changing out at the end of a year or something like that. We will sometimes sell things to, you know, our various dealers that are out there, like 7P or, you know, any place that, you know, sells our stuff for us, but we won't sell refurb stuff directly. But it is a good way of getting, you know, a nice pair of binoculars if you can go that route, especially with like Swarovski where it comes with a warranty. You know, you're going to get that full warranty.
That was like a game changer, being able to have the transferable warranty. And so for example, if Swarovski comes out with an 8x32 NL pure, then somebody here might have a used pair that's going to be
there you go. There you go. Yeah.
Like bing. So we'll see about that. So yeah. Stay tuned.
Yeah, but typically, you know, Swarovski, we don't do a lot in terms of sales. I mean, with binoculars, the product life is so long. You know, these aren't like cars or smartphones or computers where each year there's a new model that comes out. So typically we run sales on things when things are being discontinued or phased out, but it doesn't happen too often. So
yeah, that's good. Okay, let's see. Move that. I think we're maybe sorry, I'm like move. Oh goodness, the Zoom thing with the pins and the spotlights. Okay. So thank you so much, Ben, for joining us. I think we're going to sign off now and get on with our weekends. We had a nice rain here and it's actually cold. It got down to 35 for us. That's cold. And but I'm gonna hope to get out tomorrow and do some birding and beginning of the season here. So nice. So thank you very much. And folks will have that recording. I'll send you all emails. Thank you so much for coming and have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks for having me on, Jonathan, Roseann. Good seeing you guys.
Okay, thank you. You too.